same thing he did with the first term of Donald Trump. He doesn't understand Trumponomics. He doesn't understand the supply side aspects of tax cuts and deregulation. He doesn't understand the importance of strategic energy dominance and the president's ability to dramatically lower oil prices. And he doesn't have a clue about tariffs, because in the first term, very clearly, we raised tariffs and there was no inflation. Most of the tariffs got eaten by the foreign countries as we expected. What's wrong with a more flexible Fed? Why not lower rates and see what happens? Powell is doing the same thing he did with the first term of Donald Trump. He doesn't understand Trumponomics. What Jamison Greer, the USTR, has is what's called a series of verticals, where we look at each country, or in this case, a block of countries with the EU, and each country that we're dealing with is like fingerprints. They all differ in different ways. So if you look at the EU, you start with the tariffs. For example, four times higher on autos. So Germany sends us 7 cars for every one we send them. That's got to stop. That's an easy lift. That's an easy lift. The non-tariff barriers are the ones where, as a bloc, it's going to be very difficult for the EU to deal with. And then, of course, they have the VAT tax, which adds 19%, I think, to the effective tariff. The VAT tax is not just an additional tariff on America. It's also an export subsidy, the way it works under the rules of the World Trade Organization. So it's a difficult negotiation because they cheat us so badly. Remember, that deficit with Europe is huge. And what's interesting to Maria is that China has a surplus with Europe, which is about equal to our deficit with Europe. So a lot of things are coming in from China, and Europe essentially is a transshipment point for goods here. So it's a very complex one. I would just urge the Europeans to work with us, acknowledge the unfairness of this, and don't go down the retaliatory rat hole, because that will end badly for Europe. So this is why this one's important, why you're flagging it here. It's one of our biggest trading partners, and we have all sorts of other things going on from NATO on down. But we'd like to see VAT tax relief. We'd like to see lower tariffs. We'd like to see an end. One other thing, Maria, this just boggles your mind. It's like we've won cases at the WTO against Europe with respect to our agricultural imports, pork and beef. They don't respect it. Europe did not abide by those rulings by the World Trade. I mean, that boggles the mind, really. So tough negotiation. In particular, and Russia to a lesser extent, have put us on notice that there's a new way for China to go about doing coercion on the United States. We learned back in the pandemic that they were willing to withhold our masks, our PPE, our pharmaceuticals, drowned us in that sea of COVID. They were willing to do that then. What they've done in the interim is put export controls now on. You know about the rare earths and the manganes, but it's also on other critical minerals like gallium and antimony, which were very important in production process. So it's very clear we're in a new world where these kinds of actions by China, by Russia, which is playing around with our uranium stock, and other nations could hurt us. So we've got to prepare. I mean, if we learn anything, and even if you don't have that, sir, it's like the global supply chains are fragile. That's much is clear.